80 and 82.
Yeah.
Last year, let's say it was
Where's would be the line item for Downtown Alliance? How is that
It's going to be in the
categorized?
downtown RDA, which will be
So I did look at it. Isn't it in at 50?
25, page 82.
Less frequently, but
On the 431 account.
Which one?
431 account,
less time
right in the middle of that
for
page.
application, I'd go with it.
25,000.
Application.
I'm not seeing that. Oh, there it is.
Okay, we will call our meeting to order. All right. Welcome to our budget workshop.
welcome to all of you.
I know everyone is excited to be here, especially all of our staff.
Hello, Jeannie.
Hi.
Glad you could join us via phone, Jeannie. Thanks for being here. Richard, you are up first, Rich.
I'm going to be very quick. I'm going to try to get this
There we go.
done in less than 10 minutes.
All right, you have 10 minutes just like everyone else.
We have some required things to cover. The first is the fraud risk assessment. So this is an assessment required by the state of Utah that we speak about in the council meeting. According to their standards, which we've tried to meet, we are at the very low level this year. Last year we were at low. That doesn't mean that bad things can't happen. It just means we're trying hard to prevent from happening.
What does it mean? That we're doing well?
It means we're meeting their standard of having a low possibility of fraud.
Because of our safeguards.
Because of our safeguards that we put in place. Now, I don't think these are the most important safeguards. We have other safeguards that we think are important we put in place, but we've met the state's requirement of being at the very low level.
Okay.
So that is that.
And you sent us that as an attachment to look at.
I did. Now, we don't upload this anywhere, so if anybody in the public wants a copy, they're more than welcome to talk to me and I'll give it to them. Page 139 is our transfers data within our budget. We're required to talk about transfers. This is our workshop. We've done this for many, many years as a mechanism for financing the general fund. I have a long presentation that I can provide at the council meeting when there is a public hearing that you've all heard, or I'll give a short presentation if no one's there to speak to it. But again, it's something that we have done for many years. It's 5.5% of the sewer fund, 7% of water, 8% of electric, and 8% of environmental. This year we do have a couple special items. One is a transfer from the electric fund to the library construction fund for energy efficiency measures. Again, we set aside part of the electric fund for that purpose, but it's a transfer because we're part of the city to get it to the general fund. So that's why it appears here. Also, the 911 transfers are simply the mechanism for financing the 911, but it does appear as a transfer. Now onto the budget itself. The mayor's budget message talked about raises for employees, and I think it's pretty clear we're trying to do the best that we can. We did seriously contemplate a property tax increase for this year. However, because of inflation, because of other pressures on our citizenry, because of the war in Ukraine and what we thought it might do to gas prices, as well as many other things that are uncertain in the economy, we decided now is not the right time. However, it is something we need to do in the future.
And that's
Property tax
because
does not,
10 years is the last time the property tax increase?
over 10 years is 2008, 2009 calendar year. Property tax does not keep up with inflation. So when we have 10% inflation, what that means is the buying power of property tax decreased by 10% this year. Again, that's one reason why we need to do it. However, because of the economic factors that we're seeing, we're trying not to do that this year. However, expected in the future. Another reason is the city relies on property tax for part of our stability. The rating agencies who rate our city and lend us money when we need money, such as for our sewer treatment plant, will rate us as to our stability. As property tax declines, the real buying power of property tax, we become less stable in their eyes. That is another reason. The most important reason is the third, which is we need it. We need it for operations. This year we did increase fuel by 25%. We did increase specific line items, software, fertilizer, and a few other very specific items. Other than that, the budgets are almost entirely flat, and you'll hear that from most of the departments. In our enterprise funds, that might be a little different story. However, in the general fund, that is true. We can't do that forever. We know that. Other than that, the budgets are fairly tight. However, we are presenting a balanced budget. This is the mayor's proposed budget. And you should, because it's balanced, you shouldn't exactly assume that every need of the departments have been met. I know you know this. Every want certainly isn't addressed, but every need, every necessary thing, we don't quite have the funding to address. The reason I bring this up is every year there are different agencies, third parties, and sometimes even departments, they'll say, you know, we wish we had this. We all know that that is the case. However, we have unfunded capital, we have unfunded operations. And before we maybe dole out additional funds to other agencies, we'll probably have to look at our needs first. So just so you can keep that in perspective, it's not a requirement, it's just something I want to make sure is always on the tip of your tongues. We've got other things we haven't been able to do. However, having said that, I think most department heads, I think all department heads would agree that this budget is a good budget. It allows us to accomplish some very good and necessary things. And we hope in the future we'll be able to address some of those other needs that we do have as a city that we weren't able to address this year. With that, any questions, or we'll move on?
What yet is to be paid for the sewer plant?
One more time.
What more has to be paid for the sewer plant?
So we have, in terms of wrapping up construction, there are some punch list items that Isa can probably speak to at our next public hearing. Very, very few items that need to be accomplished. Then we have to pay back $100 million of debt.
That hasn't started yet.
We have started paying back some of it, but we'll have to pay that back. Construction is mostly wrapping up on time, on budget, which is incredible. Mark Nielsen deserves a huge thank you, as well as Isa and all of those who have worked on that. Largest project we hope we ever have.
Any questions for Rich?
No,
Not yet.
not yet.
Not yet is her official answer. Mike, you're up next.
Okay,
Thanks for being here.
thank you. Okay, my 10 minutes I won't take. I'll give 5 minutes to Mark Montgomery. You can probably have a lot of questions for him.
And he looks better.
Okay,
He's dressed appropriately.
He's dressed appropriately to appear
Yeah, you're
before
going
the council.
downhill, Mike.
Oh, wow. Always gonna cry.
make a tie.
His tie's on the inside.
Okay, here we are.
Here we are.
What page are you going to be on?
We are on
39.
page 3 and 4 is our summary, and our expenditure details on pages 39 through 43, and then rolling stock expenses. Our budget's really simple though, as Rich said, it's fairly static. So it's pretty much what we've talked about the last few years. But our proposed 2021 budget, or 2022 budget, sorry, is 2.1 million. We also have a CPG budget of about 500,000, give or take. We don't know what our actual lot is yet, but it's around 500,000. So we have 15 full-time employees, 3 part-time employees. We've got 4 different divisions. So in admin, we've got 2 full-time employees, 2 part-time employees. So it's 280,000. Departmental oversight, we maintain the seat receptionist, process, converting our records from paper to digital. Building safety, that's our biggest group. We got 5 employees there, $500,000 budget. Building permits, inspection services, development review, code compliance. You know, and interesting about building as well as the rest of our groups, we do a variety of different projects. So, you know, the Costco, Denver, the FedEx warehouse, and the hospital. So this group of employees, they have to know a full breadth of things in terms of technical expertise in their job. So they're looking at minor things in the house all the way to national expansion. So, you know, we're always concerned about training, getting the best people, checking the best people. It's just a struggle.
Have you ever brought in consultants to help with a load that's like a major project?
Yeah, we do third-party review on engineering big projects. We send that out. We've looked at consulting services for plan review, but it's just we'll still do those. So. So as far as last year goes, fiscal year 2021, the value of new construction is up substantially, $256 million for new construction. Building permits are about the same, about 1,000 permits, give or take. About 350 new residential units and 2 reduced detached single-family dwellings. And then we do approximately 2,000 inspections, and in some jurisdictions count those a little differently, but for the most part, it's about what we average, and then they average about 500 plan reviews. Neighborhood improvement, this is Darren Smith's group. They've got 5 employees, 1 part-time employee. Their budget's just a little over 400,000. Code enforcement, business licensing, and public art administration. So I threw the whale in there just because the idea is to get you engaged with public art, get you thinking about it, plus the dandelions, because it's dandelion season coming up. That's the mayor's big deal.
Public art.
Business licensing, we process quite a few licenses every year, 4,000 annual licenses, 1,800 landlord licenses, 1,600 commercial business licenses, 500 home occupation, and about 100 other miscellaneous licenses. And our group manages about 750 complaints. Planning, we've got 2 employees there, $225,000 budget. You're pretty familiar with our planners and what they do, development review, permitting, long-range planning, neighborhood planning. And they actually do quite a bit before you get a project that comes through the door and is actually constructed. They do the design review, historic preservation review, code amendment, subdivision, so all those things that we talk about from a planning perspective. We have a CBG program, obviously. We have 1 employee, it's $500,000 give or take. And they'll be seeing her next month as she presents the CBG priorities. So with that, I'd also encourage you to look at the monthly update we send out. It gives you all the statistics, gives you projects that are coming through so you're not caught off guard with what's been approved. Also code enforcement numbers, building permit numbers. With that, any questions?
Yes, I have a couple of questions, actually. So in looking at the administrative line, so this year's estimated was 170,000 and it's 264 for next year.
What page is that?
This is page 39, full-time earnings, under community development. Seems like a big jump.
That's our just wage calculation.
Yeah.
Remember, within each administrative division, they also have the raises for all other
Oh, that's for
divisions.
all of the other.
Because they haven't been
Okay.
allocated yet.
Thank you.
I guess we
Okay.
could have allocated the COLA, but we wait.
Okay, so all the COLA and
Yeah.
any wage, any specific
All of
positions
it's
they
in
were
that
looking at is all in
administrative
that line.
division.
item. Thank you. I
You'll
was like,
also-
That makes
whoa,
more
someone's getting a
sense.
big raise
I
this
think if you
year.
saw the mayor's
That's all.
division, it
Right,
looks
okay.
like there's a big, but it's not. It's just where we
Thanks.
house it until it's allocated.
We also had an employee, a vacancy for a period of time, so that's why that number
Okay.
is less. So,
Okay.
what else?
What was the other
Any other
question?
questions, Tom?
Well,
Or
you had
maybe-
a huge number of complaints. How many got resolved?
I think Aaron sent out an updated sheet here 2 weeks ago. We generally go for 100% resolution on them, whether it's positive or negative. We try to get to some point of closure, but resolution is always different in the eye of the beholder.
Yeah.
So, and what we find is a lot of complaints like about occupancy really isn't a true complaint. It's just the fact they don't like the neighbors and the kids that live there. So it's a lengthy process.
So along with that, I know a couple of times during the year, questions have been raised about, is there enough staff to enforce some of those things? And you're comfortable with the
Yeah.
number of positions that are in the budget for that?
Yeah, we've got two full-time code enforcement people that are at the field, and then we have two in the back end of the office that actually help support that. So yeah, we're fine.
Okay.
We could always use more, but
Well, I'm just asking the question because it's come up.
You have to have the capacity, kind of the broader capacity to house extra people. So another body means another truck, another office space, another support, all that stuff goes behind it. So it's not just paying a salary, everything has time
Yeah.
to support that person. But I think we do fine in terms of complaints. I think the biggest issue is again, it's resolution in the eye of the beholder. We get complaints and people understand that there's a process we go through, that we follow what the law requires us to do. And again, we're working with sometimes kids and students. You can't just say, shoot when there's no, get through the semester and figure this out. So it's a balance that we're trying to work between people that have an issue and people that are actually talking.
Because we added the ADUs, we added the short-term rental. I mean, there are some additional compliance
Right.
type things, so I just want to make sure that you feel comfortable with the number of
Well,
staff.
I compliment you with the creativity that you've developed some of these things, like with, you know, some of the initiatives we had that were maybe controversial.
Like chickens? Like chickens?
Chickens and eggs and all the other stuff. Well, you know, the short-term rentals and accessory dwellings. We have a lot of fun things.
Yeah. There's more to come, I'm
I
sure.
remember in an earlier era, this is before Amy Mark was here, there was a staff person that I came in the office one time. They were in tears, and they said, "I can't take this," you know, because of the way people, you know, just called in complaining. So I know it's not always easy, and so we appreciate it.
Always roses and unicorns. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Oh, one more question. Sorry. I'm presuming that that $900,000 jump up in internal grants, that was COVID grants, correct, under CDBG for this year?
CBG, yeah.
Okay, thanks. That I knew what I was looking at, but
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Mark, you're up next. All right. Yes. Look very appropriately dressed today.
Mike's already left, so.
Somebody's got to class this place up.
Yes, that's right.
I thought that's what Tom was there for.
What's that?
He said someone has to class this place up. I said, I thought that's what you were here for.
Thank you. There it is. What is it?
Yes, that is Jeannie.
You're getting back from her car.
Okay,
She's snoring.
I'm going to be fast too.
I do not believe so.
Is there a microphone right here? Can she hear? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. This just kind of shows our total budget over the last several years, and like Rich made the point earlier that it's pretty flat. I will say that the 2023 number that I have does not include the 8% wage increase that's going in there. So, but
It does not include it?
no, and none of these, whenever I do these, I never have that number yet, so they never do. But, so we've stayed flat for lots of years, we keep going. I don't know that that will continue in this market, but we managed to do it this year. Just a quick update on Third Dam. The construction and the surge tank and the penstock are all complete. Next steps are to do sediment removal out of the reservoir and also refurbish the powerhouse, both the power generation equipment and the control equipment. We had Stantec as our owner engineer for that, and they got us through most 99% of the construction, and then they quit. And they had some internal stuff going on. I don't know. They put us behind probably a year and a half. We finally fired them, went out to bid again. We've hired Franson Engineering to be our owner engineer, which I like that. They're local, so we kind of keep an eye on it. But they're helping us put together this sediment removal plan. We have to file this plan and management system with FERC. It has to be approved before we can do anything. And then they're also going to look at that hydro building. It's pretty old. It's like 95 years old. So they're going to assess the structural integrity of that building. We're not looking to make it seismically updated, but we want to make sure it's safe for our guys to work in.
When do you expect the filing to happen?
Their timeline was to have the sediment plan ready before summer. I'm not sure on the hydro building. And then the next thing on that is to do an RFP to redo all the generation equipment. And we're hoping to have that complete by summer. So that's kind of in the works. That I have enough in my budget. I'm rolling forward to kind of handle these steps. But when it comes to actually doing the sediment removal and doing the powerhouse renovation, I will have to come and ask for transfer, because that'll be
This is, the majority of my budget is our UAMPS power purchase budget, and UG kept that very, very flat. It's up a tiny bit, but part of that is, they're pretty conservative in their budgeting. We lost some budget out of like the Colorado River Storage Project because there's no water. And kind of offsetting that, we added a whole bunch more. In fact, you can see 1.62 million more to our natural gas fuel budget because we anticipate running those generators a lot more this summer. But it's pretty flat. However, some of you have seen this graph before. The green line is my power purchase costs for so far this year, and the purple line is my budgeted costs. So you can see that I'm overrunning my budget by what I've purchased just in this fiscal year already. Because of that, we anticipate doing electric surcharges for the next fiscal year. Talked to all the industrial customers and USU and kind of warned them that's probably coming. But kind of along with that, we're going to do, after the turn of the fiscal year, we're going to do a cost of service study and a resource planning study. And I anticipate some kind of a rate change coming out of that because our power costs are so much more than they were.
And that 100,000 is in the budget for this.
That is in the budget that you have.
Page 108.
Page 108.
Yeah, 108. And that's kind of the big chunk. There's lots of detail in there, and I'm happy to answer questions.
There's so many questions. So you gave a brief report so that there'd be fewer questions.
Well, I remember when our reports were really detailed and we got told to carve it back.
Yeah.
So I took that to heart.
I'm still trying to figure out this summer and, you know, the loss of power.
Me too. Yeah, that's definitely something we're concerned about. Yuchi was telling me that she managed to make a block purchase for the month of June, which is,
Oh, was she?
yeah, she found something for pretty reasonable. I want to say it's in the $65 a megawatt hour range, which
That's pretty good.
Yeah, better than us generating.
Did you tell her congratulations?
yes, she saves us more money than we pay her, so she's definitely worth her wages.
So you're, I got you.
While you're flipping through that, upgrades to the power plant, is that going to make us more efficient? Will that generate more electricity? Or?
No, we're limited by physics. We have, only a certain size of pipe, and we have a certain amount of drop head.
Right.
So this amount of water and this many feet is this much head. However, we think that those old units are very inefficient, so we feel like we're going to gain 15 to 20% of efficiency, but I don't think we'll overrun what the nameplate already has.
Okay.
Will we have power through the summer?
We will at the generators for second dam that are located at first dam, but third dam, those generators are shot. We've got to rebuild them.
But first dam, you will have power.
Yeah, they're up and running now. I mean, a little bit, it's just not a lot. Although it's picking up a little bit around.
So we're at the substation, that USG substation, where are we at in terms of that?
So I got a block wall approved through USU's UPRPC committee. I think I'm saying that right. In my mind, that's their planning and zoning. They liked the design, they approved it. We went out to bid twice, and it was over $400,000, and I just couldn't stomach it. So we've gone back and asked for a price out of the company that did the substation down on the south end of town, Sub 9. I don't know if you've seen that. It's a precast wall. I think it looks really nice. We want to do a precast wall at USU. We were waiting for engineer 3D rendering to present to USU so they could approve the new design.
The original design was not precast,
No, it was like individual
so
cinder
you're
blocks.
swapping it for a lower cost for the
And
precast.
we think that'll be less than half of what
Okay.
the other block costs. So I sent that on to USU. We got the 3D rendering because they won't approve it until they can see it. I don't care. Sign a PO till I can develop it. They'll be okay with it. So they have the 3D renderings and I'm waiting to hear back on whether they'll sign off on the designer. I think they will. I anticipate that. They'll be fine.
So we should be on target with what's budgeted for that, then, if you can reduce that.
Yeah, I mean, I
that-
budgeted a little bit more this year. It's in the budget for like kind of landscaping stuff because we're supposed to landscape around. Most of this was already budgeted and we'll just roll it forward and finish up construction.
So Rich will have a motion for us to remove.
Yeah. Yeah, he'll come and ask for rollovers and I'll have a few.
But we should.
And he'll say no and then I'll,
But you feel like it's gonna be within
I think so.
relatively close?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I may not read this right, but the cost of service analysis rate study, I don't see a number.
Well, it's normally our amount is like 100, I don't know the account number, was it 108? Page 108. Page 108. So normally it's like 100, normally it's like 40,000 is our regular amount in that
Okay, well, I was on 150.
category, and we put 140 or 150, I can't remember. I apologize. I didn't
Yep, you have 100,000 for the study and 50,000 for general professional.
Right,
technical.
which is what our normal amount. We usually do 50,000 just for our average expenses. I put 100,000 in.
So there's been some discussions from community members that we need to do more with public education to help encourage people to conserve electricity. How would that fit into your staff
Well,
availability and?
that'll be, so we have the renewables board, and Emily kind of oversees that. That'll come out of that group.
Okay.
That's, I don't have any of staff that I can put towards that.
So hopefully she'll have the bandwidth to do that.
Yeah, she hires one or two interns, and then the committee itself can, you know, get that going. They're pretty passionate about it.
Has the enchant been approved?
No, I have board meetings next week, so they're supposed to present us with a draft contract so that we could look at to approve it. But they were supposed to do that last month at the board meeting, so I'll keep you updated though.
Is there a chance it's not available?
Yeah, there's a possibility, but the momentum that it has with everything that I'm hearing, I think it's.
And they're ready?
I think the biggest difficulty is making sure this contract gets negotiated where everybody's happy with it, and then Enchant actually has to purchase the plant from UAMPS.
And we have an off-ramp.
We have what?
Off-ramp. If we want to cut it at 5 years, isn't it a 15-year contract?
It's a 15-year contract, yeah.
If we wanted to cut it at 5 or 10, could we?
I am confident we could absolutely sell any megawatts, you know, if we got it 5 years and we had.
It'll just be another
At
5.
any time.
Yeah, there's just no base load power out there, and I don't foresee any issues with selling it if we get in a position.
You're thinking November.
That's kind of my thinking. They're saying earlier than that, but honestly,
You're a realist.
if it's before the end of the year, I'll be
They'll be
surprised. to be
happy.
honest.
It's like the new truck I ordered that was supposed to be here in April.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that from Chris Wilson, our senator? No.
It won't help us this summer.
No. And honestly, since it's not going to help us this summer, that gives us quite a bit of leeway, right? Because the winter months are easier to find power than
Figuring out.
it is summer months. So as long as we get it before next summer.
So are we in trouble for handling the peak loads this summer? For the
No, Yuchi's been doing some good work at finding some block purchases for the individual months. One of the places she's bought them, I hope the renewable's happy, but Bonanza Power Plant out in the Una Basin, it's a big coal plant. We managed to secure some there. She bought some out of the Palo Alto electrical market, which in California, during the daylight hours, that's probably mostly solar, because they have a lot of solar in California. So that's the one I told you about, she got in for June.
Okay, good.
That's great. Okay, any other questions for Mark?
Thank you, Mark.
Thanks, Mark.
You bet.
Thank you.
I do have one minor correction that I have to make. This is my fault, and I don't know how this happened, but on page 114, we do have to have a lease payment budgeted for there. I recall typing it in, but I don't know, maybe I didn't hit save. It's $7,650.
Is that for the USU?
That is the USU. Yeah, for some reason, I don't know why that's,
Where should it be? Which line?
it should be on page 114. You can see the estimated 2022, 7,650.
Yeah,
It'd be the same for 2023,
okay.
other than we'd split it between interest and principal. But
Gotcha.
okay.
I apologize, I will add that in.
Gosh. Huge error.
That's the first one.
Oh, sure. The last one today.
That's the first one you made.
That is the first one, but I caught it, so I'm just kidding.
Oh.
Just kidding.
It's all good.
I'm just, sorry about that.
Okay. Paul, you're up next.
Have a good night, Mark.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you. You too.
Ooh, he has an entourage.
Of course.
Can we get an update from Jeannie? How's it coming, Jeannie?
What?
How's the drive coming?
I'm at the horse arena,
Oh,
At the what?
very good.
South Town.
Horse arena.
Horse arena.
Where's that?
I don't know.
The Animal Science Farm.
Oh, there we go.
What city?
The animal science.
In
animal science
Wellsville.
park, Yes.
Oh,
Okay, we will see. We'll be done by the time you get here.
Do you want me to wait?
Go ahead, Paul.
Okay, thanks for having us. We, the Public Works Department, as you're well aware, is made up of 6 divisions. They're listed here: GIS, engineering, facilities, shops, streets and stormwater, and water and wastewater. I'll take just a minute and talk about the Public Works. I want to talk operations, maintenance, budget, general budget. Then Sam will talk about the capital, all of our capital budgets. Public Works made up of approximately 375 line items in your budget. I don't plan on taking more than a minute for each one of those, but I'll try and keep it under that. Thank you. We've got,
He's here all night.
oh, there's one of those for every slide. We have approximately 84 full-time employees in Public Works, covering all those areas. A few notes from our upcoming, like I said, operations and maintenance. As Rich mentioned, generally speaking, all of those line items remained generally unchanged from fiscal year 22. The 2 increases Rich had mentioned, fuel and salary, which we are excited for and appreciate. Other than that, any increases you see were actually offset by other line items being decreased throughout those budgets, especially in the general fund. With regards to rolling stock, I just point out a couple things. I do have a typo. The air quality grant, if you recall, we had 10 vehicles that qualified for that. 8 of the 10 were completed. One of them, after we looked at it, it wasn't even smart to spend half the money to replace that vehicle. It doesn't get much use, and so we couldn't justify that one. And then number 10, we couldn't get it delivered in time to make sure that we qualified for the grants. We didn't do that one either. But 8 of the 10 were completed and done, and we've submitted everything to the state for that. 2 of the bigger items in our rolling stock this year were replacing a 10-wheel dump truck in the water division and replacing our large loader in the street division. Those are 2 of the bigger ones. There's some smaller. There's a crew truck and some of our rollover vehicles that we do each year.
What's a loader?
It is the four-wheel, large bucket on the front,
Oh, okay, thanks.
heavy equipment, yellow iron.
I'm not a caterpillar.
big front
I don't study the caterpillar.
It's a Caterpillar
at all.
950H.
A big front-end loader.
My nephew works for Caterpillar, by the way, so
We should talk to him.
you probably should.
So generally speaking, that is an update on that budget. With the capital program, I just want to give a quick update on, we looked at the large projects that were, we talked about last year, presented as fiscal year '22. Just a quick update on those. The 100 West Corridor, this is on the south end over the Logan River. It's currently under construction. The bridge is moving along nicely. Hope to be setting girders on that within 2-3 weeks.
Yeah, it's at the end of the month, yeah.
And that whole project we hope to have done by this fall.
You doing deep piers on that?
There's piles that they've been installing.
Yeah.
The north side of the river is where they're at, and they haven't done all the piers on the south side, piles, excuse me. But yes,
How far do you have to go down?
I don't know how deep those are.
They're about 60 to 70 feet on that bridge.
Good swell.
The 1800 North, 600 West intersection, we have started construction on that. It's very similar to 1400 North and 600 West in making the improvements to the intersection. And a traffic signal. We have planned to make improvements to the railroad crossing. Unfortunately, that's very similar to 1400 North and 600 West as well. But we're still working through that. Hope to have that done this fall as well. A large sewer trunk line installation on 1000 North from approximately 800 West to 10th West. That's why that road's been closed for quite some time. They have completed the intersection of 800 West. Now they'll move north. And so as soon as some of that development in the area is allowed, we can reopen that road. But that'll be done this summer. Hopefully by the first part of June. Canyon Road Waterline, majority of that happened last fall. We just have a few punch list items to finish this spring and early summer to finish that project. Crockett Well reconstruction, as you've seen, is underway. We hope to have that done around the 1st of June as well.
Nice building.
Oh my gosh, it's so nice looking.
It is nice. And as the mayor mentioned in city council meeting, I believe that was one of the residents there was responsible and worked out really good. It does look really nice. We do have a couple of very specific electrical components that have been very hard to get. We hope to have them by mid-June as well to finish that with the Crockett Well before the high summer demand for water. 800 North sewer road replacements, that's 800 West to 1000 West. We have awarded that contract. We planned it, but luckily the contract won't be starting till sometime in July, which will allow some 10th North construction to be done, and so we don't close every single
All the
road.
roads closed, yeah, exactly.
Just most of them. 300 South, that was done last summer, it's completed. 600 West, that's going out towards Airport Road. That was resurfaced last summer. And we've been doing some work order software, new work order software implementation in engineering, in public works throughout this winter, and it's been going very well. But that's an update on our previous year's capital projects. If you recall, last year in the budget, we approved a new position for a capital program manager. We got him hired in December, and he is here, Sam. Maybe you know Sam. So he will be presenting on the upcoming capital program for fiscal year '23 and the major projects with that.
I'll just add that that was the project Paul just talked about. We added it up, and it's about almost $30 million of projects that we've been working on this last year. So it's pretty exciting.
Significant.
So I'm here to talk about upcoming projects. So I haven't highlighted every project that's on these capital sheets. If you have a specific question, we can talk about it. I just kind of pulled out some of the bigger ones. Reconstruction of 1200 East. This is in conjunction with USU as well as our local CMPO, the Attached Metropolitan Planning Organization.
Is that the roundabout?
Yes, so we have planned 2 intersection improvements. Right now, we are saying they're going to be roundabouts. We haven't done the study yet, we haven't done the design yet, but we're planning on roundabouts. That would be 850 north, 12th east, and then 10th north, 12th east. USU will be paying for the one at 850 north, that's the tennis courts at USU. And then we are paying for the one at 10th north as well as the road in between the 2 roundabouts. So that's exciting. This is the last year. We had some money last year for this project and this year. So we'll be fully funded now.
And that 10th North one is the oval about.
Yeah, oval about. 10th North, 6th West intersection. This is the first time it's hitting our capital sheets. Similar to 14th North, 6th West, 18th North, 6th West. That intersection needs improvement. This year's budget is for design funds only. We will have this project on our capital sheets for the next couple of years until we can save enough to do construction in 3 to 5 years. So this is just enough to get us started. Same story with the First North Bridge. This is the First North Bridge over the Logan River. Same thing, design funds only, get us started, and construction planned in 3 to 5 years. You'll see this on our budget sheets for the next couple of years as we're saving up for construction.
Have we seen the design for how it connects to the highway? Basically goes around McDonald's or something? How does it?
On 100 West?
Yeah.
Yes, we do have that design. It's, if you're familiar with the intersection at the highway in 10th West, where it's got that free right-hand turn.
Okay.
It'll be very similar to that for the First West project, yes.
All right.
The next project, the 4th North, 6th West intersection project. So this would be a connection between 6th West and 8th West, and then we're also along 6th West doing some improvements. We've got money in, again, same kind of story where this is a year of saving for it. The money in this year's budget will go towards any right-of-way acquisition that we need to fill a shortfalls grant we got from the COG, the Cache County Council of Governments, as well as saving for construction. The traffic signals, we've got a couple of traffic signal locations in town that we've identified that could use traffic signals. In this current budget year, we've got money for 1 signal, and in the coming, what you have before you, we haven't enough for another signal. So potentially 2 signals. We're hoping to use that money as seed money for some grants and do even more, potentially replace some existing signals that need replacement. So we don't know exactly how far that money will go, but we're hoping we can get it to stretch farther.
And have you identified which signals those are?
We have a list. Our top priorities would be the 7th South, 1st East signal by the DMV.
Yeah.
That one has warranted a signal, so that would be at the top of our list. Another on the list would be 3rd South, 1st West by the high school and the development that's coming in.
Yeah.
Those are the 2 that we've kind of preliminarily identified.
Okay.
Is anything being considered for 4th? Let's see, 10th North, 4th East. A T, it's almost like a T intersection.
It is a little offset, yes. Yeah. We haven't done any traffic study or any signal studies, I should say, for that intersection. We haven't seen the need as of yet, but if that's something we need to look at, we can.
I'd put it on a tickler file because I come through there quite a bit, and it does. Some drivers are very cautious, and they wait and wait and wait, and of course I go right through it.
Are you talking 400 East?
Where the hospital, like people use that to get over to the hospital.
Yeah, it is an offset, yeah.
It's kind of a zig. There's something else, but anyway.
We can generally do like a stop sign study with our engineering staff. To do a signal study, we usually have a consultant to do those, and those are about $5,000. So it's not a huge bill.
Stop sign might be helpful, but it's offset so much that it's kind of difficult.
Well, and that would be the only stop sign on 10th.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
would be a little, I think that might even be more dangerous because people wouldn't be expecting a stop sign on 10th.
Absolutely. We definitely take that into account when we do those studies.
Because, I know everything about traffic studies,
Yes.
so you should listen to what I have to say.
For another oval about.
Hey, the oval about is super cool.
It is cool. I'll bring that up with our engineering. Bill's here, he can make a note of
The
it.
other question is, one of the neighbors in Ellis was telling me that the city was going to widen 4th North from Main all the way to 6th West. And that caused some consternation because we went through a whole lot of studies years ago about diverting the traffic on 4th North back, past the jail, which would divide that neighborhood quite severely. So I don't know if that was for sure or if there's going to be public hearings on that.
We have fielded a lot of questions about that recently, and the reason is we've started that project and we had a meeting with the neighborhood of affected property owners. We invited property owners that were adjacent to the project to talk to them about impacts to their property. And from that meeting, we've had a lot of different understandings of what was said, and that's probably on us for some miscommunication. We actually have the Ellis neighborhood is having a neighborhood meeting next Monday night at 6:30, and we are presenting at that to try to help clear that up. But to answer your question, Tom, no, we do not have any plans to widen any right-of-way east of 5th West currently.
Okay.
There might be some improvements between 6th West and
Yeah, the
5th West,
intersection, okay.
but we don't have any current plans to do any widening east of 5th West.
Yeah, they just struggled because the school's right in the middle. We got kids walking both directions, and they feel like it's going to divide the neighborhood worse.
Yeah, no. And we've been meeting, Jeannie had a meeting with us last week. We met with Sue Sorensen, the neighborhood chair, to try to help clear up some of the misunderstandings. And like I said, we've got a neighborhood meeting next week to hopefully help answer any more questions that come up on that.
That's good, thank you.
The last project I got up there is the 10th North Main to 200 West. You've seen this project talked about a lot. This is the last year of funding. We got the last little bit, and then we're planning for construction next summer. So bidding in the early spring, starting next year.
So all the property has been acquired, all of that issue?
That's part of the reason why we're a little bit slower than we thought. We are still working on the property.
Okay, still working on it?
Yeah.
Okay.
We got a few.
A few?
Yes.
Last time we talked, there were 5, we're down to 3, I believe, 2 or 3.
Okay.
And they're proceeding.
And I got to tell you what, I think I've been talking about this project for 10 years, probably 10 years.
We're excited to see
And look how
it.
close we are.
Not to extend our meeting terribly, but I did get a complaint from somebody who sold property that now people are parking on it. The city owns the corner, the northwest corner, and people are parking in it, and the previous owners were quite distressed that it was turning into a de facto parking lot for the neighborhood.
We have actually put a sign on there,
We need a little
For no
chain link
parking?
fence.
and ComDev's been helping us with enforcement.
Okay.
We need a little chain link fence. There's miles of it around.
That would help.
All right, so those were our roadway projects. Like I said, I just picked the main ones to highlight. For our water department, we've got 2 waterline projects coming up in this fiscal year that we've got on the budget sheets. First East, a waterline replacement. This would be upsizing the waterline from 4 inches to 8 inches from about Center Street to 3rd South. The development that's going on in the neighborhood is helping. They're replacing some of the water line in front of their frontage, and then this would be for us to do the rest of it.
Do we get it all the way from the park to 2nd South? Is that all going to be paid for by development?
The part in front of their development.
Yes, the part in front of the
Well,
development.
there's 2 developments.
And that's why I hesitate. I don't know if they've finalized it between the 2, but I know for sure the northernmost development has got the water line in that portion. I don't know how far we are on the south.
But yes, we're working with both of them.
Okay, because they're going to build the big apartment building,
Yes.
so,
Yeah.
okay.
Yep. So they're helping us with that. The other Waterline project we've got planned this coming fiscal year is 200 north from 650 west to 1000 west, replacing a 6-inch water line with a new 12-inch water line. We want to get this in before UDOT does SR 30 and repaves over a portion of that. So we're going to get that in this next year.
High priority then.
Yeah, it'll be a good one.
Oh, that'll be a mess.
Sewer projects, this isn't super interesting, but we're saving money for the 400 North Main to 7th East project that we have planned in a couple of years. So this is the first year of saving. We've got about 700,000 that we're just going to put aside for that project in the future.
Can I go back one?
Mm-hmm.
When you do the water project, the increased size of the line from on 200 north, from 650 west to 10th west, how is that going to impact that new large development? Will it be past that? No, 650 will be right in the middle of it.
Which development?
Are you talking Homestead?
Homestead, because they only have one exit right now.
We would definitely have to coordinate that, yes. I think, and don't quote me on this, but I believe we'd have to check. The Homestead did a 12-inch water line through their entrance, so that's why it's 650 west and not 600 west, is we're going to hook on where Homestead ended and continue that. So I think Homestead has already gotten us past their entrance.
Okay, because they have no other way to get out of there.
Yeah,
that
that
aware
makes
of.
sense that it would be 650 then.
Yeah. But it's not a numbered street, remember?
Our facilities budget this year, they've got a couple projects. They've got new carpet and paint at the courts building, a new front entry doors to the courts building, and then in the service center, they've got some natural gas burner that they're going to install. This is just to supplement. We burn motor oil and used oil to keep that building. This burner would just be to supplement that, not replace it. Do you have any questions for capital or other public works questions?
A full complement of projects coming up.
We have a lot.
I could not deal with the electronic version.
Paul, it seems like you plan things so that traffic doesn't get stopped. I just remembered a time when I couldn't get to a certain office I was trying to get to. It was like, there's no way to get there. But it seems like you're doing better on that.
Well, good.
Yay.
Well, I don't know if I always feel that way.
We
but
try and do better.
There's things that are always under construction, but
Yeah, with these big projects, 10th North, the 600 West corridor, the
Oh my gosh,
10th
there's
North,
so many,
14th, 18th.
there's so many
We sat
online
down
complaints.
3 or 4 years ago and said, okay, let's try and figure out how can we stage these so, and then
It won't be
between
everything
Union
at once.
Pacific and the development start happening, now we just kind of give up. So
Well, as long as you don't do all of them at once,
we're trying to.
between 6th and 10th, if you don't do 2, and
Correct.
You know,
That's where
2
we're
and 10
at.
and
But
14.
it definitely has an impact. 1400 North has a lot of traffic right now, and that railroad crossing is helping it. But we have tweaked that signal probably beyond what we should to just get as much efficiency out of it as we can.
well, I do want to tell you that the 20 feet that the airport leased from Union Pacific, that used to cost
Oh,
$15,000 for 20 years, now costs $61,000 a year.
yep.
Yep. So I guess it's trying to make money anywhere we can.
Good.
Well, thanks for
Thank you.
joining the team in December.
Absolutely.
And I didn't
I
do
love
it.
He was in the team already, he was on the team already.
New job.
I didn't do it, but I need to recognize Hart and Bill for being in, for sitting through it. So we appreciate our
You guys
managers.
are an awesome entourage.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for supporting Paul.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
Got a lot going on.
and Sam.
Yeah, and Sam. Yep. Russ, you're up next. And welcome to the meeting, Jeannie.
Thanks.
Glad you could make it safely.
It's quite a drive.
Yeah, safely.
Here's some ocean traffic.
You drove from
Hi, Russ, how are you today?
I'm good.
Thanks for wearing a tie.
Sure. Just for you guys. Yeah, I'm giving you this only because your colleague Ernesto already received his leisure guide
Oh, okay.
at board meeting. I didn't want you to feel left out.
Yeah, because he would be having all the leisure and we wouldn't get it.
Yes, you know all the info.
Oh, cool.
And you wouldn't.
Thank you.
I don't have a presentation for you tonight, so just try to keep up with me.
It's always hard.
We got a lot going on.
Just a quick overall of our department. We have 5 areas, 5 divisions in Parks and Recreation Department. There are 22 full-time employees that make up that group. Majority of the full-time staff, that's what we're talking about here, is in the Parks Division. So there's 9, I believe. Yeah, I think we've got 9 there, 10, excuse me. And then 3 are in the other 4 divisions: administration, golf, cemetery, and recreation. As Rich mentioned in the introduction in the budget, one of the areas that was really pressing for us this actually went beyond fiscal year 22, the year we're in now, but we started seeing spikes in material prices. And what was really hurting us was anything that had to do with plastic, so PVC piping, which we do a lot of, even to things like fertilizer, which was mentioned earlier. Just incredible spike in prices for that. And so, not knowing whether this could happen or not, during our presentation to the mayor, we gathered our information to at least make the mayor aware of what we were looking at. And we're grateful for those items that were requested to be in the budget currently, in the proposed budget for this coming year. Part of this process in terms of anything that has to do with water and turf, fertilizer, PVC pipe, those kinds of things, we're looking at as a strategy for better efficiency with water conservation. So, we've all heard a lot about dialing back what we use and so on and so forth in terms of water conservation. These are also very intricate parts of water conservation from our standpoint because we're a high volume user when it comes to parks and public spaces. So one of the efforts for us is to take care of the ground that we have, make sure that we can provide to the extent that resources allow us the soils, the routes by which we are growing turf by, so that we can have a better position for those areas that will be used by the public throughout the course of the summer. So it wouldn't apply so much to areas like park strips. Of course, part of the strategies that are being looked at now is converting park strips to something other than turf. So our focus is, in terms of good, healthy turf, is for public areas that people use. The others may have to go by the wayside, be treated differently as time goes on, and as the resources that we currently are aware of, we have a better handle on it. So that's been part of our strategy with this year's proposed budget. There still are areas, though, that are concerning, and particularly for us because we're labor intensive. So we continue to be in a staff shortage situation. And there isn't a staff meeting that goes by that we don't have hiring status on that agenda, just because it's on a daily basis that we have to prepare for decisions to be made down the road based on what's happening this week or last week or next week. An example of that is high volume facilities like the pool. So currently where we sit right now with the pool is we have enough lifeguards that equate to what we had last year. It's not exactly where we'd like to be, about in the 70s. We feel more comfortable if we're somewhere in the neighborhood of mid-90s. That allows for more shift changes, breaks, and so forth. But we can get through that at the level we're currently at. But there's other areas of the department where we're still hurting. In the Parks Division, generally by now we have 16 seasonal people that'll work full-time until school starts. And we're not there yet. So we've started several weeks ago, and we're continuing to do this, to reach out to the community in ways that we can, one, inform them of where we are right now in terms of their expectations of us from years past. And then the other is areas in which the community can also participate, helping us to close some of those gaps a little bit. So we've reached out to the neighborhood councils. We've got information that we'll be sending to them this week about opportunities to help us pick litter in parks, particularly on days before we mow, because that's very helpful. With the schedule that the mow crew has, it's really helpful if they can just keep mowing. But they all know that, if you mow over one piece of litter, you just created a bigger problem. And so they know to stop to do that, but if we can have the public help us with that, then they can get to their next site. The other is calling on the public to help us pull the black trash cans out of parks to the curb on the day of their trash pickup. So the park schedule for trash pickup is the same as the neighborhood. So if you live in any particular neighborhood in Logan, and you're familiar with your park, that is the same day that trash would get pulled out. Now, we also have to kind of backfill the assistance, if you will, if that doesn't happen, because especially during the summertime, it's important for us to get those cans emptied because of the amount of use that we get. But if for some reason it doesn't, the staff know to double check or include in their regular routine to check sites, and if there are cans that need to be, then they'll pull them out. But anything that the community can do to help us with that is going to be greatly appreciated. We've already posted on restroom doors. People might think twice about maybe using them currently, but we're at about a frequency about twice a week that we can get them serviced. So we just want the public to be aware that we're short-staffed. We're working on it. We get maybe one or two that kind of trickle in. We're really grateful when we have people that have worked for us before come back because they have experience now. Right? It's like with anywhere. But it's a trickle pace, and so it's, we're hoping before time gets too far along that we might be somewhere where it's a little more manageable than it is right now. So in the parks, they have, I think, 7 of the 16 that they need. So still got a gap to fill. And for the most part, it's the custodial maintenance services types of tasks that we need help with.
So with the proposed rate increase, which would go into effect July 1st, as you're doing hiring, are you identifying that the rate might go up? How does that work in terms of assisting you with it?
Well, we work closely with other departments, Human Resources Department with Ambry and Rich's department, just in terms of making sure that what we don't do is set a rate for seasonal part-time that creates a disruption with full-time, right? because both of these pieces have to work together. So it's challenging, which then means, it sets a limit no matter what in terms of where the market is and what we can do. And, people will make their choices based on that. So we try to do our best in terms of making sure that applicants know that they'll get a great work experience with us. You don't have to be inside of a building all day long. So, but it really comes down to the choice of the individual, but our part is to make sure that the information is out there. And so when we put our notices out, like on the restrooms, we also have a QR code that has our job application embedded in that. When we send this notice out, or this flyer out to the neighborhood council, it likewise will have the same thing. Sorry, we haven't gone through much of the budget. I'll just
No, these are important.
leave that. As far as the budget goes, I'll take questions.
We can read the budget, so.
Some of the other departments mentioned projects that are coming up. I'll just mention a couple to you. I'm not sure how much further I'm going to get without losing my voice for some reason.
For tonight.
For tonight. We have submitted 3 applications to the county RAPS program for funding, which they will either decide on tonight or in 2 weeks. But the 3 projects that we had submitted to them, now I have to think about the 3, sorry, that left my mind for a moment. One of the projects we're really excited about is in the area of 200 South and 1400 West. This happens to be in an area that is comprised of the landfills buffer zone. It's west of the Amberfields subdivision and a couple of others. But we don't have any public parks to speak of within the proximity of that based on our comprehensive plan metrics. And so the Woodruff neighborhood came to the mayor and had made a request. We had gone back and done some planning and in coordination with the environmental department, came up with a conceptual plan that includes a neighborhood park west of Amberfields, between that subdivision, the west end of that subdivision, and 14th West. In the larger picture, though, we're working with the environmental department about the conversion plan for the landfill and parts of their buffer property which can't be developed on for a future dog park, a disc golf course, and a bike trails facility on the landfill itself. These are things that will take some time, but one of those RAPS projects is to at least get the neighborhood park. It would be about a 4-acre park in that neighborhood on the construction planning portion of our schedule. We currently have a TAP grant with UDOT for a hawk signal that'll look pretty much like the hawk signal that's on 800 East right now on the west side of the university. So where the stadium is, there exists a pedestrian signal there at Blue Square. North of that, up by where the canal is, this is about 1250 north, are plans for another hawk signal that will allow for pedestrian traffic on the middle, we refer to it as the middle canal trail, but it's the canal company right-of-way or maintenance way. Along that maintenance way to cross 800 East and then it would continue through USU to 1400 North and cross again. And we have RAPS money that we're going to be working with Public Works on constructing that crossing. And then it'll continue along the canal into North Logan, and then North Logan will pick it up from there.
Nice.
So, yeah, there's lots going on. Nevertheless, the only frustration with trying to get things done is working with supply chain issues, which everybody's familiar with, right? You mentioned about trucks and automobiles. You know, it's more of a question of which year are you talking about, and then having labor to do things. So for projects that we typically would do internally with our staff on the construction end of things, some of those projects are having to be pushed off till later this fall or winter, so that we can focus on just taking care of the maintenance this year until we can get through our high demand time of year. With that, I'll take any questions you have about the budget.
You need to mention for the rest of the council the increased revenue at the golf course and how well it's doing.
Yes, thank you, Tom. I know for Jeff and Randy, so this is the golf course superintendent and the head pro, at least for Jeff this week, with graduation and the term ending for USU, there were some seasoned staff, experienced staff that he has that were not available until this week. And so, so they were doing 12, 13-hour days back to back, just trying to get through the demand, which, you know, it's a two-edged sword because we love the play because it generates revenue, but we're also burning through budget to keep up with that demand. In fiscal year 21, we did somewhere in the neighborhood of 1.3, 1.5, and our operating expenses were below that. That was the first year we had a surplus or a reserve fund to speak of for that. And of course, that provides for a lot of confidence amongst the staff. I think part of that might have been helped along with kind of the tail end of, well, even the start of COVID, because we wondered about how that was going to affect it. But it sets an expectation, I think, that we have learned a few things about on this wave, if you will, of things that we need to really pay attention to in terms of being able to have a positive outcome in terms of expenses and revenues. So, you know, continue to be diligent, but continue to find ways to also develop revenue that doesn't get absorbed by additional costs because of that revenue.
Excellent.
That's good.
Thanks, Russ.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
I can't think of anything else. Thank you. Yes.
And here's the ringer I wasn't expecting
Do we need to
tonight.
close and adjourn? So
Yeah.
we will adjourn our budget workshop and convene our development agency budget workshop.
So such timid.
I know, I didn't,
He's
I
worried
didn't want
about
to scare.
scaring
I didn't want to scare the audience
Scare the
off. So
public.
yes.
The timid taps.
So is this mic on here or not?
It is.
It is.
We can hear you.
Yeah, I could hear everybody
Okay.
on my phone when I drove from Provo.
Oh, so you just got here a little
Yeah.
while ago.
Yeah, she was here before you.
That was easy to do, right? That was pretty late. Okay, well, good evening, council. Let's
evening.
launch into this. This is the RDA budget for fiscal 2023. Notes here. We'll move. Okay, first of all, I just wanted to highlight some really fun things, some great things I think that happened this year. We appreciate your support that the RDA board has given to help make these things happen. Center Block Plaza is one of them. Demolition's essentially complete now there. And that's, the project's going out to bid, so that would be a combined bid for both the plaza itself along with the Plaza 45 building, which is just adjacent to it. Both those things should be really good for downtown, driving economic growth. It's a nice key city infrastructure project. So just so you're aware, you all probably remember this, but it's probably a good reminder. The funding for the plaza and for the reshelling of the Plaza 45 building were appropriated last March. So they were carried forward into this current budget. And now with construction about to start in earnest, well, you know, we've spent some of those funds already with demolition, of course, but the majority of those funds later this summer will be carried forward into the current budget. So you won't see it, you know, in your budget papers, but it's obviously there. Okay, and then we will sell. The plan is to sell the Plaza 45 building. We had it appraised several months ago. The value came in at $2.775 million. So that will, you know, be a future influx of revenue back into the RDA, which would be a good thing.
And that was the appraised value, assuming the improvements to it, correct?
Assuming the improvements, correct.
Not with the walls done.
Yeah, the walls, yeah, the
Right now it's
interior will be,
Right now, it's not worth it.
yeah. What'd you say? I missed part of that. It sounded like you made a joke and I didn't catch it.
She said right now it's not worth 2.775
With the walls
million
done.
with the
That's
walls.
a very expensive dollhouse.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of, I went up there. It's actually kind of cool to look out where there's no wall. You get a fantastic view of Main Street, so.
Don't tell too
And
many
the
people that.
tabernacle. Yeah, and the tabernacle.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, Blue Spring Business Park, we made this investment last year into some road infrastructure, specifically 800 West. I just wanted to point out that this has been paying really good dividends as more and more business park, industrial space is coming online. There's a lot of leasing activity, so I think the money that we already spent was, you know, well used and has helped propel this project into a really good place, really. Costco, of course, will be on the far southwestern edge of Blue Spring Business Park. And in the proposed budget, if you look on the line item that's RDA Reserve, you'll see some funds there that are budgeted to help with the construction of the new 1200 North, some road and infrastructure enhancements on 10th North and also 10th West.
Rich, what page is that? You told me earlier, but I didn't have my little tabs.
Let's see, I can probably find that too. 79
Thank you.
on the detail, yep. Okay.
That was a good guess.
Alrighty, so moving along. Cytiva, just there again, just touching on quickly some good things that happened. With locations around the world, we're glad that they chose Logan to do their expansion. As you know, they manufacture cell culture products, use those in various cell gene therapies, Alzheimer's products, vaccines, COVID-19 vaccine, a lot of different things. So there is a rendering of their facility or their expansion. So this is a view looking south. That's a 4-story, 60,000 square foot building, 80 feet tall. They're planning on making, as part of this project, a $230 million capital investment. That's a big lift to the tax rolls, and they expect to create about 400 new jobs over a 10-year period.
So where's the exact location?
Oh, thanks, Tom. This is
Highway 89.
1800 South and 10th West, just, immediately north of Highway 8991.
So they just expanded a building a couple of years ago. So is it north of there or east of there or what?
It's right, well, Thermo Fisher expanded. Cytiva, I think they did a little bit too, but this one's obviously major.
So it'll be on the 10th West area.
This is, so, in other words, the right-hand side of the screen is 10th West, and moving to the left, you're moving eastward.
All right, I got it.
So this doubles their manufacturing facility. There's production areas, laboratories, you name it. It's a huge expansion. Okay, lastly, well, almost lastly, this is the Renewal Project, which you looked at earlier. So that land's been cleared. It's going to be a 69-unit residential complex with 8 commercial units, a little bistro there on the corner. So we're excited to see that start here real soon. And then 300 North, of course, you've walked through, some of the funding where the city acquired the remainder of the property. The good thing with this site, as we explained earlier, is we only have 2 owners, a likely developer and then the city or the RDA. So it's positioned really nicely to spring hopefully a mixed-use project. We're hoping later this year. We've had some discussions with that developer, and we're hoping that sometime during this year we can come to terms and bring something back to you that will work. This is the proposed pedestrian underpass under South Main Street down by the Riverwoods, looking from east to west, going under the road. That's going to be really nice. That's supposed to start later this year. The RDA budget does not have any dollars specifically in there for this project. Most of it's UDOT funded. However, this view is looking north to south. This is the 100 East extension going to the west of the Adams Wealth Advisor building. And the RDA, as you'll see in the RDA reserve, there's $440,000 from the RDA reserve to help pay for this bridge and road project. And there will be, as part of that project, some trail connections along the river that will connect to that pedestrian underpass, making it a really nice.
That are done by the developer.
What was that?
They're done by the developer.
The trail? Yes, the trail is almost exclusively done. However, there is a small piece of land owned by the developer where they will grant us an easement. This is coming up from the river to the street level, where the RDA will pay for, a sidewalk or whatever that hard surface is coming from the river level to the street level.
Okay.
But yeah, the lion's share of it is funded by the developer. Okay, just quick summary here. These are the active RDA project areas. Active meaning we're still collecting tax increment revenues for these project areas. The airport's at the top, so that's north, south at the bottom. Just very quickly, the orange upper right-hand corner, that is the Auto Mall Community Development Project area. Then down below that in purple, you have the downtown RDA. And then out to the upper left in light blue is the Northwest RDA. And down toward the bottom in red, you have the South Main RDA. And that little piece of yellow right by it is what we call the South Main River Community Reinvestment Project area, which is our newest one. And here, this slide shows when those project areas expire. So you can see we've got the downtown, Northwest, and South Main all expiring at the end of this year, leaving us with just 2 on the books, the Auto Mall and the South Main River CRPA.
Time for us to do some more.
Yes, it sounds like it.
Yeah, I mean,
But they're
there's
not called RDAs anymore, right? They're called
CDAs.
CRPA, Community Reinvestment Project Areas. Yeah, they're always playing with the acronyms to keep us awake again.
New definition. Same.
It's worth showing here just these inactive RDA project areas. By inactive, that means we still have a fund balance which could be deployed. However, they're inactive in the sense that we're no longer collecting tax increment revenue. And these areas are, the top in pink is the Quell Meadows project area, and then the yellow one is the Logan North Retail, which is centered around the Cache Valley Mall and some of those big mid-box stores right there. In green, you've got the 600 West EDA around Schreiber Foods. And at the bottom, that light blue is the Logan River RDA, where Cytiva is, their expansion, Thermo Fisher, and all those. Okay, where does RDA revenue come from? You guys know. I thought there might be at least a couple of people out there. So anyone that's going to go back
wishful thinking.
and watch the video of this exciting budget meeting, they can understand where those RDA revenues come from. We explained the one property tax increment. We also do have some rent collection, not a lot, but we do own a property downtown that brings in some rent.
That's the carts.
Correct, on First West. There's also some interest revenue generated off of the fund balance, and then occasionally there's some property sales. For the current budget, or not current, but proposed fiscal 2023, there's your total budget amount, 4.7 million, with 1.4 million of that in the RDA reserve, which it means that we don't have specific budget expenditures that are planned. So that's kind of a savings account, if you will, that could be deployed should we have other projects, to talk about, and then we bring those to you and we deliberate and talk about it and so forth. This is essentially the same budget figures as last year, with one exception. You do have that road infrastructure work associated with the Costco, those 3 roads you mentioned, as well as the 100 West Bridge and Road, which total about 1.5. Were it not for those, it'd be essentially the same budget, more or less.
But what does it mean, the budget? Does that mean money that you're planning to spend? Or?
All but 1.4. So if you took a 4.7 million total budget, that is technically in the budget. It could be spent. However, 1.4 of that is not specified for any particular purpose, right? So we have plans in the budget to spend 3.3, the net of those two numbers. And quite honestly, we rarely, we've never spent the full budgeted RDA amount. We have various line items. We try to be very conservative, and we're every year, for the most part, under budget. In your budget, in the pages that Rich gave you, they're arranged by project area. You already know that. That's for ease of just knowing what they apply to, right? And there's various administration expenses. Those apply to all project areas generally. And then we have 2 project areas which generate affordable housing funds, some mandatory set-asides that we put in a special account, and those are deployed later for housing projects somewhere in the city. Some key budget expenditure items, I'm not going to list these specifically unless you have questions, but they're really grouped in these areas. Existing development agreement obligations, affordable housing programs, center block utilities and supplies, so that's a new one, right, to pay for some of the energy as well as the Plaza supplies themselves, facade grant program, and some general administrative expenses. In terms of the housing programs, we have 2. We've got the On Logan program, which is nothing new. We've done that for years. To date, there's over 200 families that have been recipients of that grant. They can receive up to a $7,500 grant. And then the other one is the Northern Utah Neighborhood Improvement Program. We did this in 2013. We did it in 2015. Neighborhood Housing Solutions secured some monies from the Federal Home Loan Bank of Seattle, Des Moines, I think this time around, and leveraged with some RDA funds. They will probably impact about 10 homes in the community, making some very needed repairs on some of those. The last slide here, existing fund balance as of the end of February, RDA fund balance is 8.8 million, with about $1 million of that in your affordable housing fund. And that is the budget for 2023, unless you have some questions.
So I just had one weird question. What is the parking lease that's in the budget for $13,000?
Oh, that's $1,300 a month. $1,100 a month, $13,000.
Yeah, $13,000 total.
Yep. That's to pay for across the street, north of City Hall on the 300
Okay,
block.
next to the old Herald Journal building?
Yeah, right, just east of that.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, thanks.
So hopefully at some point, we don't have that obligation when that corner gets developed, and we work all that out, but
Okay.
that's what that is. Yes.
A general question. Affordable housing is a growing and increasingly more severe problem in our state, in our country. And so do we need to be more aggressive in developing or helping to develop affordable houses or housing that can be used. We have homeless. We know there's homeless here. Are we attacking that? It seems like we're in a position, we're a healthy city, but we do have people sleeping in their cars or people sleeping in their parents' basement or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, we contributed, what, Rich, a couple years ago, a couple of times, I think, to the homeless fund through the RDA. As far as what specific, I'll answer that specific from an RDA perspective. As you can see, we only have $1 million, so we can't put a dent in that. However, what we can do is leverage some nice programs. If an affordable housing project comes to us that has, you know, the characteristics that we think would make a very successful project and would help, you know, alleviate some of that housing pressure, yes, RDA funds could be deployed for that purpose. Also, you can deploy these affordable housing funds, which we have and you have in the downtown. We can continue to do that as well. Now, it's not detached single-family housing, but I know on Mill Creek, their studio apartments just, you know,
flew off
the charts, so, or the shelf. So, you know, if you build more apartment inventory, smaller units, more affordable, you're not solving the problem, obviously, but you're helping, to a degree at least, kind of make a dent in helping the problem. I talked to a broker just yesterday, and the good news, you know, we've been in an environment where on a lot of these, at least the single-family homes, where you hear stories of multiple offers, many of them cash offers being put on the table. I think that day is now gone.
Because of 5.25% interest rates for mortgages.
Yeah, that's certainly helping, so. Well, helping in one respect and not another.
Yeah.
I do think we do more for affordable housing overall by helping or investing or zoning for multifamily than we do by specifically investing in affordable. Affordable is hard. Affordable is hard to get developers to develop. It's hard for them to get the funding. It's hard for us to address them. However, more housing, I think simply by addressing supply side,
increasing our inventory
for prices than will a specific investment in affordable housing, because we can't build enough of these units. We just couldn't. There's not enough developers doing it. There aren't enough funds available. So I do think it makes things overall more affordable. It doesn't address specifically.
There are some developers that we work with that always have a certain percentage, 25, 30%, as an affordable component of their project. I'm sure that they get some kind of federal grants on that thing, but it seems to be a nice mix because it's not like you put the low-income people all over here.
Right.
They're mixed in with a market rate and have the same facilities, at least the ones that we're doing.
So the problem for us is the developer is the one that has to bring that project forward. And we can say we're willing to help subsidize to a certain extent, but they're the ones that have to do it. And it's difficult on their side to make that project work. Although on the other hand, we have several at least that are willing to build multifamily apartment complexes, and we've built many of them and several are approved. I do think that will have a substantial effect, maybe not addressed specifically at affordable housing and those that are below those thresholds, but for overall and making it more affordable, it has a pretty big effect.
Well,
now we need other cities to do the same in Cache Valley.
And affordable, the definition of affordable changes every day, right? So I think the real issue is housing for the super low income individuals.
Right.
It's not so much just affordable. So, like we've talked about, the project that was built next to the high school, that can be deemed affordable because of what
Up to
the
80%.
rents go to, because it's 80% of the AMI. So somebody who is earning that can afford those apartments. I think what you're referencing is the people that are at the very lowest end of the economic scale. So to me, that's a different thing than affordable housing. To me, that's how do we address...
Affordable is a legal definition.
Right, how do we help the super low income people who maybe on that bubble of homelessness where like one small thing can tip them over.
Now, we do need some of these other communities in Cache Valley to also zone for some of these apartments. Not all of them can be in Logan. I think we've done a substantial amount this past 2-3 years. I'm not saying they haven't done any, but we need them to do more.
I think North Logan stepped up more
I
than
think they
people
have.
realize. They've got quite a lot of multifamily housing, townhome developments, et cetera, that are going in, but
And Providence as
further out you
well.
get from us, the less is available.
And it is harder because it's not as walkable from where they are. However, we do need them to invest some more. And if we all do collectively, I think we can meet, maybe we can exceed that demand and then price will come down.
Will come down, yeah, absolutely. All right, any other questions for Kirk? Thank you so much, Kirk. You're welcome. And thank you all for coming tonight. I think we are adjourned. Good. So Jeannie just went.
Mark, one question.
I'm out of here.
Who is all?
What, yeah, what did Jeannie call?
Jeannie had a 7 o'clock Zoom that she had to run for water.
Zoo.
Water.
I thought
She told me she was making up for coming late by the hearing.
Yes, there you
I
go.
thought she said zoo.
No, she had a Zoom meeting
Oh, a
she was
Zoom
running,
meeting? I
and I
thought she
think
said
it was for
Zoom.
something with the water board.
Yeah, for the water board.
Yeah, Zoom. It's just one letter.
Is